welcome today in Woburn. I'm your host Samantha Stone, and I'm coming from my second little Woburn in New Hampshire at our lake place today. But very excited to be catching up today. We've got Mayor Scott Galvin as always. We have City Councilor for Ward 3, Jeff Dillon, who's going to give us an update on a couple of important things. And then Kerstin Lochrie is here going to talk about her run for City Council, and really excited to get to know her better and talk a little bit about what's happening there. So I'm thrilled to have everybody. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July and picnics and barbecues and is surviving all the rain that we've been having. Thanks for joining me as always, Scott.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here, Samantha. Thank you.
Good. So, Scott, I know that we've been doing some vaccination clinics and things. Do you have any updated data for us in terms of percentage of population who are vaccinated at this point?
Yeah, so we're still, we're still like under that 70% threshold. I think we're just closing in. Last I had checked last Thursday, I think we had 68% have at least one shot, and then like 64 are fully vaccinated. So we're kind of in a, we've hit that lull, and we're doing, Jeff will tell you, we're doing vaccine clinics at City Hall, and we're trying to do them consistently on a Thursday night. Crowds are very low. I mean, we had like 20 the first week, and then last week we had 7. So,
oh wow!
Yeah,
well, it was a holiday week. That might have had some impact.
Yeah, so we're going to try. We're going to try it again this week. I said we're going to try to go through the end of July,
okay.
And then take it from there. But I think a good time really is going to be I'll start working with Matt Crowley and try to get things going for the school. The students and most of the teachers are pretty much all vaccinated, but there's still a few, and I think we'll take that approach in the fall, late summer, to try to get more children and teachers that want to get vaccinated. So that's the next approach.
That sounds great. Thanks for the update.
Yep.
I also saw something on the city website about redevelopment of Well 1, that there's, I guess it was a bid or proposal or pricing. And anytime we talk about water in the city, people leap to all kinds of imaginations about what that means and what's happening because of our history, I think. Is it just routine? I'm assuming this is just routine maintenance.
Yeah, so
right?
So we have 5 wells, and we rehab one every year. So every year a well gets rehabbed, and that's really just like tuning up a car or something like that. So they'll do that, and it ends up it goes out to bid. It usually goes in for 40,000, and sometimes when they rip it apart, they'll find other items, so they'll go from there. But it's generally tune up. We do have an issue. The capital plan is going to the city council tomorrow. We're discussing actually a total rebuild of one of our wells, which the production has gone down. So it's at that point we are going to be asking the council for a much greater outlay for one of the wells.
Thanks for that heads up. That's good to know for folks. I want to talk a little bit about the library. There's been a couple of things people have dropped me notes on this week, and I want to catch up on. Yeah. So one of the things is something I actually had reached out to the libraries. I noticed we didn't have any adult programming yet for the summer, and some of the things that had pre-COVID been available to us were not. And they shared that there was a number of open positions, I think 4 open positions, that they were waiting for approval to be able to hire, and that once those were hired, then they'd be able to get all the sort of normal programming. And I didn't know if you had any updates for us on where that was. I think they're all budgeted positions, if I'm correct.
Oh, they're all budgeted. Chuck Flaherty has been, Chuck's the interim director over there. Yeah. And, one of the big things Chuck's been trying to do is fill the positions. And they've all either been filled or advertised. And he's, I've given him the green light since he's been there to fill those positions. And he's done a good job moving to get them filled. That's one of his, one of his big tasks. Among other things, and he's got the programming's back. I know they're doing great things with the children's programming. Hermaine's still doing the book club. I know that's going well. So everything should be.
That's good to know. I may have missed, so my impression, so the children's stuff is awesome. I know those were the first priority positions and should be to fill back. I had the impression that he was waiting for the green light, so I may have misunderstood.
No, he's been working on the job description. And he's, like I said, he had 4 or 5 positions to fill, and he didn't want to just fill them like that. He took time developing the job description, making sure it was exactly what was needed for the library. So, yeah.
Well, I love that he's thinking about the future and making sure we have staff on board. And I've heard wonderful things about the teen and children's librarian that have recently been added.
Good.
So I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that. That's awesome. One other little thing in the library, it was sent to me. There was, so it feels like this was a whole lifetime ago, but you know, as we all do, that there were a number of open meeting law violation complaints made.
Yep.
And that I'm going to look up, though, I wrote down the word, make sure I had it. So the determination, that's the official word. I want to make sure I had the word right. Determination by the Attorney General's office that there was, in fact, some violations. With all the changes, there's two things that are remedy. One is training for current trustees to happen over the next 90 days. No big deal. That's something we'd probably do anyways. And then there was, within 30 days, the requirement to approve some old meeting minutes to make sure that those were approved and sent out. Now, the board can't meet, right? We've talked about that, and we were hopeful that in this month there might be the legislation make enough progress where we can put that next trustee on so that we could, have enough of a quorum to meet. Do you have any updates for us on that?
No, so we'll work with the Attorney General on that, and I think that's we'll put that in the put that behind us, move forward, and just waiting for. Like I said, we're waiting for the state to finalize that special act. And, I've talked to Rich Haggerty on a number of occasions, and he said it's still in third readings, but he's said it's moving forward. There was another home rule petition that Jeff might know a little bit more about, was the gender for the alderman. They made it gender neutral. That just came back as approved. So we're expecting this one to be very shortly.
That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And is this the move from alderman to city councilor, or is it to? Okay,
yeah,
that's great. I guess I've been operating that way, and I didn't realize that it was not official. So that's a great change to hear about.
It just came in Friday, so Rich was very happy about that. I won't steal his thunder. You can let him.
I'll have him on, and we'll pretend that we didn't talk about it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Oh, well, this is excellent. Thank you, Scott, for catching me up on these things that have been sort of circulating. Anything else you want to mention before we invite Jeff to join us?
Yeah, a couple good things. Number one, the 5-year capital plan is going down to the city council. It's with them. They'll be giving it a first read tomorrow. And then we had some very, very excellent news with regard to Shaker Glen. That's there's 20 acres of open space there that the city owns, and we've been pursuing the Market Basket, the Mueller's group, for a couple of years to have them convey the 11 acres that adjoins that. And they finally got back to us, and we had offered to purchase for the appraised value, which was about $600,000. And they came back very graciously and gratuitously agreed to donate it to the city. So it's a great win for the city. 11 acres of open space, and we've got great plans for that. So that's going to be unfolding over the next couple of weeks.
Wow, what a wonderful gift to the city! That is incredible, and we are going to have to celebrate that with them.
Very generous of them. So we'll make sure that they get their recognition for that. But we're happy about it.
Absolutely. Now, Shaker Glen is where?
Shaker Glen is right by the Citizens Bank, the McDonald's on the west side. We used to historically have flooding, but we have done some remedies to alleviate that.
Great.
The plan is that we received a $2 million grant to upgrade that area to make it more, passive recreation, handle some stormwater retention. So it's going to be like I said, a nice amenity for people who want to do hiking over in that area, and also it's going to serve a great benefit for stormwater and flood retention.
That's really great news. Oh, I'm so excited to hear that, and thank you for reminding me. Whereas I am directionally challenged, as anybody who's spent any time with me knows, so I always have to ask where things are because that is not a skill that I have. Well, Scott, thank you so much for sharing that great news. I'm really excited to hear all that, and thanks for keeping us posted on everything.
Okay, thanks for having me on, and I'll just take my screen off, but I'll listen into you guys.
Great. That's wonderful. Jeff, thanks for popping in as always and catching us up. Jeff, you were just telling me that there appeared to be a water main break sort of in our neck of the woods in Ward 3. So hopefully that's going to get cleaned up pretty soon for us.
Yes. How are you, Samantha? Thank you for the invite, and thank you to Woburn Public Media for allowing us to have this forum to get the news out. You guys really do a great job in getting the information out to the citizens. And it's appreciated by many because I hear from many people. But yeah, on my way home, I was coming along Wynn Street, and right at the corner of Colonial Road and Wynn Street, I saw the DPW workers there, and they're right on top of it working at it. So hopefully they can get that fixed quick so there's no interruption to our residents.
Well,
But
I love it, and I have to tell you, I think I've mentioned this before. They're like my heroes. We had water pressure issues in my house that we lived with for a very long time, and out of desperation, I finally called the city because the plumber didn't think they could fix it, and they came out, and like within such a short period of time, they had cleaned the line, and all of a sudden we had all this amazing pressure. And I looked at my husband and thought, we have been living with like, don't flush the toilet while we shower for so long. And here these guys did an incredible job. They were awesome. So I'm sure they're on it and working hard already.
well, I've said it before, DPW, our building commissioner, our parks department, our recreation, all the different departments. Doesn't matter if it's weekends, holidays. Just this past weekend, I had to call Commissioner Quinn to help a constituent who had a flooded basement, and their power was shut off by Eversource, and they were looking to get it back on. So I called him on a Sunday. Not only did he answer right away, but it wasn't even a second ring, and coached me and let me know how to take care of the problem and help my constituent, as well as making sure I gave the constituent his direct number so that we could try to get him his power back on as quickly as possible for him and his family. So it's certainly a team effort, and we're very blessed to have all the departments put 100% in all the time as they do.
Well, thank you to them, but also thank you for you being available and taking that call and tracking it down and figuring out all that. I think, it's one of the things about the role of city councilor. I don't think we generally, I know I won't speak for the community at large. You guys do so much and communicate with the residents so in so many different ways that probably go unnoticed. We all see sort of the budget approvals, and we see a lot of what happens in the meetings and really important work there, but we don't always see all the behind the scenes things like this that are helping individual residents. So thank you for doing that.
Well, you bring up a great point. Certainly a lot of the heavy lifting gets done in the chambers with budgets and zoning and different things such as that. But the part that I really like and enjoy and really embrace and feel as though this is why I ran for election, this is what I want to give back to the city that I love so much, is just helping people like I did this weekend. It's not taken lightly when someone calls, and I really put 100% effort to see what we can do to make sure they're in good shape. So it's a lot of fun. It really is. People appreciate it, and it's part of the job. Be out there, be part of the community, show up at different events, make sure you volunteer, and do everything you can to make Woburn the great city that it is.
Well, I love it, and I always love seeing you. I see you at all the things that I do, so we appreciate it. I want to talk about a couple things in particular, really one thing that applies too. So we're talking about some additional new great open space that has just been donated to the city, which is incredible. And then we also have in Ward 3, we have 2 schools that are slated to have some open space. And we're really fortunate because we have made some progress on both of those schools. And I know that we've talked a little bit about what's happening at the Hurled School, and is it Plimpton? Do I have the name right?
Plimpton, you're correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
And the Plimpton School. And so I just wanted to get a quick update from you, Jeff, about both of those properties and sort of where we're at and what's happening next.
Sure. We can start with the Plimpton. We had a very good meeting on June 24th with the neighbors over at the library for the Plimpton School. And again, it's a school that's been empty for a period of time now. And the mayor took the questions, addressed the issues. And in the meantime, I met out with Lynn Berman, head assistant DPW, and we addressed a couple things just to make it a little bit more presentable while we're in the process of setting up the demolition. The mayor's working very hard on that. He already has over $600,000 appropriated to do the job. Right now, in my, what I call my real job, real estate development, property management, everything is difficult to get any contractors to get anything done. We're even seeing it in the homeowners, typical homeowner trying to get a plumber, trying to get an electrician. Stock has gone up, prices have gone up. Just trying to get any electricians, carpenters, it's difficult again. So I know the mayor has that on his agenda, and we're hoping to have another meeting by the end of July, and not only talk about the building coming down, but get more feedback on what the neighbors and the residents of the city of Woburn would like to see go there. So that's in the works. So
That's
we had
great.
a good turnout.
I'm so glad to hear that. And Joyce had come on and gave us a little bit of update from, she had
Sure.
attended the meeting and in our last discussion, which is great. So, but we're not officially out. Are we officially out to bid on the demolition? At this point, we're not.
I think
correct?
that was the next step, that he was
Okay.
putting it out to bid,
Okay.
but the money is appropriated, so the money's there.
Yeah.
And if it's not quite enough, then it will come to city council.
Okay.
And we'll make a vote on to go forward and get this done. And
Great.
I will ask my fellow councilmen and one councilwoman to please give support to this and get this done as quickly as possible.
That's great. And at the Herald School, you had an amazing community meeting. We got to tour the land and the property that I attended, and I know you also had another one after that for on Zoom for folks who couldn't make the in-person one. And I know that we had some grant stuff that might be happening or that we were applying for to help support some of the conservation piece there. These projects take a long time. Like we were like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. We said we were going to do
Right.
it. And I want next week for there to be a park there. I'm impatient, right? That's just sort of my nature. I know it doesn't work that way. So what's sort of the timeline for the next phase of that school project?
Yeah, great question. Right now, I'm getting feedback from the direct abutters. We're hearing just a lot of positive and some concerns, which we're trying to address. We have a meeting coming up the end of July with the Mystic River Watershed Association, who is kind enough to be giving us this grant money. So far, all the work, the planning, and all the development stages has cost the city zero. It's all come from grant money, which is really a positive thing. And anytime we can do that, help the environment, help the wildlife that's there now, and improve the area for the neighbors, take down a school that again has been vacant for a number of years at this point. And it's a great thing. The time frame, I think we're in the planning stage right now. We're not out of the planning stage. Maybe more of a question for the mayor, but I would estimate that the school would probably be coming down with the next year and a half to maybe 2, but he could confirm that. And then the back part of the stormwater ecology park would probably come within the next year or 2 after that. So it is a process. Sometimes I'm learning very quickly. In government, there are steps and processes where I ran a company and still do for years. And being one of the bosses, I'm used to getting things done a little quicker. So I have to put myself into check every once in a while.
It's important. And one of the things that I think is important about this process that I know in my impatience, I forget sometimes because I'm very much like a just go, do, is that the reason there is these processes and these things is you want enough input from the community to make sure that it serves the community well, and then that we're being fiscally responsible in the process of using it, and particularly on conservation land that we're getting all the EPA approvals and state approvals and everything we need to do the protection. So as impatient as I might be, I appreciate the steps that we're going through to make sure that it is something that has durable value to us as a city.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up an important part of the whole deal over there. And it was very important to the mayor and myself to make sure this was inclusive. So we really, the mayor, myself, Rory from the Recreation Department, we all worked as a real team to make sure the word got out there. The engineering department, everyone put the combined effort together. And we had, as you saw, a great crowd out there. And I'm very proud to say that it's far from done, but one of the most important things I wanted to make sure, I didn't want to hear from somebody saying, oh, I didn't know, I would have liked this, I would have liked to said this. We really put the word out, from delivering over 350 door-to-door handouts, my wife and I. So it was good, we got our exercise. But I know
Well,
that
that's
was
a good way of looking at it, Jeff. I love that. And you really did. You've made it very easy for people to participate in the process, and there will be more times to participate in the process. That's not over. So
yeah.
thank you for all your work in doing that, and for being so available to our residents as always.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Well, next up we have Kerstin Lochrie, who's running for City Council. And I'm excited, Kerstin, to get to know you a little bit better and talk a little bit about your campaign and the hard work that you're doing to get out there and support this and serve the city.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I actually echo Alderman Councilor Dillon's sentiments when I say thank you for doing this, especially when you're on vacation and you kind of have to forewarn the entire house, please just give me a little while. And it can be a challenge when one is on vacation. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this and keeping everyone informed. And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. The real work is done with Jen and Lauren and Brian and the team behind the scenes. I get to show up and ask all my curious questions, and they do all that hard work. But I'm great. Thank you, and I appreciate that guests come on every single week and answer all of our crazy questions, and that the community has a forum to do this. I think we're really lucky, frankly, that we have a city government, and also not just government, but community in general, that is eager to interact and answer questions and share what's going on with the city every single week. I take that. I don't take that for granted. I don't see that everywhere else. So we're really lucky.
And I've watched a lot of your shows, and I believe that one of the parts that I like the most is that everyone that you've had on seems genuinely invested in the well-being of the city.
Yeah, we are very blessed. I think that's very true. I feel that very much, and all of our guests. And that's actually a great transition. Let's talk a little bit about the ward you're in and what has inspired you to run for City Council. Because, as Jeff just talked about, it's a big commitment, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I'm so grateful for the people who step up to that role. Tell us what's inspired you to do that.
Thank you for asking. So I have been here for a very long time. It was supposed to be temporary. I live in a very, very old house. My house is somewhere between 125 and 130 years old. And at some point, it just became home. And I couldn't imagine myself living anywhere else. I love the fact that we have wooded parts around here. We also have some shopping fairly close by in case we need to run out and do anything. So my wards consist of two parts, Ward 6-1 and 6-2. Decidedly, Ward 6-2, I think I'm saying that wrong, but is the bigger part. It's the bigger portion. In fact, on first pass, it looks as if it's more densely populated, but in fact it is not, because it comprises all of the New Boston area, which is a mix of some residential, it's not much residential, but some residential, and also some businesses, some commercial, some industrial, all the little offshoot streets like Rossler Road. There's some unique little businesses down there. But the other part is the part where I live. I live on Pearl Street, and I have woods behind my house, which I just love. I've seen all kinds of wildlife there. There are deer walking in and out of my backyard. I've seen wild turkeys. I've seen everything. And I know, again, that if I need something, I can hop in a car and drive 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, to Stop and Shop. And I would wager that the majority of the people who live within this ward feel the same sentiment. It's the best of everything. It's the best of everything. It's can be quiet. It's diverse population. When I moved in, my children were the only small children here. Now the reverse is true. My children have grown up and all the children around me are young children. And it's fun watching them grow up. It really is. It's fun watching as schools change to adapt to these children's needs. I'm married to a high school math teacher and I know how hard the pandemic was on all of them. I know the extra mile that all of them went, and I applaud them wholeheartedly for doing it.
There, it's funny that you talked about the neighborhood and sort of the character. When I first moved to Woburn, Massachusetts, my husband and I were living in a 2-family. My sister and her family lived downstairs. In fact, it is the same home that I'm in now that is now a 1-family. It was kind of an artificial 2-family that somebody had thrown a wall up and thrown an extra kitchen in a spot. It was always
Yep.
and then we've since renovated it. But when we moved into the neighborhood, it was a very elderly population around us. There were no other young families. And at the beginning of the years, young families moved in, and it was wonderful. My kids have amazing friendships from the neighborhood that we grow in, and we see new families moving in now, and it is a wonderful part about being in our community. So we first got to know you, Kerstin, running for mayor in the last election.
That is correct.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you learned during that campaign that you'll be applying to your city council experience.
It's a good question. So when I first think of the question, I think of, I've been in business for a majority of my life. And so I think of lessons learned, which potentially can have negative ramifications, but I don't see it that way. The lessons that I learned along the path toward the mayoral position were that people have a lot to say. And I learned how to listen and listen and listen and listen. And people do, in fact, have an awful lot to say. Again, the key lesson that I learned was that I'm a very good listener and that people have a lot to say. The thing that I learned from that, the other key lesson I took away from that was I started earlier this time. So I started getting myself out there. I started more actively listening to people. I started asking a lot of questions. So when I made the decision to run for city councilor this time, there is perhaps there was a dearth of knowledge. There is no longer. I understand the issues and I'm willing to act upon them.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about your priorities as you see them. So as the things that you are most eager to support and champion should you be elected city councilor.
Thank you. The number one issue that I want to support is I want people to know that I'm here. Just as Councilor Dillon said, my phone rings on a Sunday, I'm going to answer it. If there's a knock on my door, I'm going to answer it. If I get an email, I'm going to respond to it. The issues that are prevalent in this ward are, no shock, no surprise, as with the rest of the city, there is a lack of open space. And the biggest issue right now facing us, well, there are two issues right now facing us. One of them is at 1071 Main Street, which is a very large parcel of land. It's 5 acres. It's been cordoned off, and it's been that way for about 10 years now. And the reason that it's been cordoned off is because it's contaminated. It should be an EPA site. EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency. The site itself is not buildable at this point, nor is it able to be remediated right now or usable. The definition of remediated means means again, to make it better, make it whole. To remediate the soil, which is heavily contaminated from the former businesses, any company which chooses to purchase this property, and right now it belongs to Seaver Construction, has to literally physically dig up 3 feet of soil and replace it with plain fill. It's not a cheap proposition. It's not an easy proposition. The EPA becomes involved. There's constant testing of the soil. If there's found to be groundwater underneath, everything comes to a halt. It has to be worked upon again. So that's one of the biggest issues, is not continuing to let that just lay fallow, but to actively work to remediate it. There is a motion on the table to potentially limit the number of units from 57 to 20. I would argue that there should be even fewer than that, that we do need more open land. The other issue, the issue which not only is important to the people in this ward, but important to myself too, is the building on 38, the blasting, the ledges project. I've been affected, as well as have most of the people within this ward. I have cracks in my foundations. I have cracks in my ceilings. I have cracks in my walls, and I have spent thousands of dollars on an exterminator. So what I'm telling the people with whom I come into contact is I probably can't stop it. It's a done deal. It was the result of a lawsuit, which was lost. I probably can't stop it, but I can work and fight like heck to make sure that my constituents are properly reimbursed and the damage is repaired and that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. I've seen some pretty horrific pictures and stories of folks, and I feel this has been a long time, and it's really hard when your home is disrupted, and this is a place you go to relax and unwind.
Exactly.
Be with family, and that has long been a challenge for folks. I have not caught up recently with folks. Where are they? Is the blasting and removal of stone mostly done at this point, or is that still an ongoing effort?
It is ongoing. I'm not as well versed as I should be. I can tell you that there's an asphalt road now, which leads me to believe that the project part, the heavy demolition part, is nearing completion. But I've seen what the silica dust, I've seen firsthand what the silica dust has done to the houses, to the cars, to the lawns, and I can only imagine what people are breathing in.
Well, I'm sure that the folks there are really happy to hear that they have someone who will advocate for appropriate, support as
I will.
I
will.
I know they'll be happy to hear that. One of the things that is wonderful about a campaign is you've described is you have an opportunity to listen, right? And to share your thoughts and ideas. Tell us a little bit about some of the things you might be having coming up where folks can get to know you better, whether it's at an event or just where to outreach to you. Maybe have a Facebook group or wherever folks can make sure to get to know you a little bit better.
That's a really good point. So this is what I'm using. I'm going door to door with these, and on the back of it is my name, my phone number, and my email address. I am not just simply dropping them off in people's screen doors, but rather knocking on every door and getting a chance to meet the people who, again, have a lot to say. So as I said, on the back of this is my name, my email address, and my phone number. I am always available. I come from a background in hospitality where people are on the front lines, so to speak, 24 hours a day. So my voicemail says, if I can't answer your phone call right this minute, I apologize, but I will get back to you within 24 hours, not 24 business hours, 24 hours. And I mean that.
Well, thank you for stepping up to help support the community. I think this is really, I love seeing people who live here and love our city, want to do more to make it even better. You've talked a little bit about the neighborhood that you live in and how you fell in love with that. Tell us a little bit about some of your favorite parts of Woburn, the community, things that we do or spots that you love to go hang out in.
So it's funny that you say that. One of the spots that I most like to hang out on is the common itself. It was so well laid out. It was so well planned. I hate reading the names on the memorials, but I love reading the names on the memorials. No one was forgotten. I love the fact that that comment has been there since the town was first settled, not even incorporated, but the fact that this town was first settled. I absolutely love that. I love the architectural diversity in this city. I love looking at the First Congregational Church. It's a beauty. It's a work of art. I love looking at City Hall with all of the intricate woodwork up along the peak, along the roof line, and the way that it was so well painted. I love walking through, as the mayor said, through Shaker Glen. And yes, it can be a nightmare when it's wet, but I love walking through Shaker Glen. I love just walking down the streets around my house and getting to know the people who live around me and their children and hear their concerns. I don't think that I have a favorite place. If I did, again, it would be the Common, but I just love being here, listening to people's stories, seeing how much we do for the people within our city, such as Pride Day, such as the fiber optic lights around the posts down in the center of town, which can be changed according to the month. That takes a lot of forethought and people who really care to do that.
I'm glad you raised that. I think we do have a lot of people who care deeply about our city, and we're fortunate to do that. And I have noticed, and maybe it's me, but I've noticed a surge in people who want to get involved in the community, whether they're running for office or they're volunteering more, or they're just participating in things that the city does. And I've noticed that has grown a lot over the years of me being here. I've been in Woburn now for 26 or 27 years. So I didn't grow up here, but I have raised my family here, and it's absolutely home to me, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. And so I love seeing that about the community. Tell me a little bit about, sort of, just as you're thinking about Ward 6, and you've talked a little bit about neighborhoods, City Council also acts as a unit, right? So you represent your ward, but as a city councilor, you're actually working with your peers across the organization to help support the city overall. I'm sure you've listened to lots of meetings and attended things, and you've been learning a lot about it. What do you think, what surprises you about that process, or excites you about that process, is probably a better question.
Good question. So I listened when you and Councilor Dillon were speaking about wishing the process could be more quick, and understand that it's not. I've been a part of the process, which can get mired down in paperwork. And so I have that patience. But the part that most excites me is letting my end of the city know that I'm here to make it better for them. That's the part that really excites me. Is I have a background, as I said, in hospitality, but I also have a background in working with at-risk populations, the elderly, small children, and, as I said, the at-risk population. And it's seeing the look of satisfaction on someone's face, or seeing the look of relief when something as confounding as having a basement flooded and a power turned off is fixed. So you made my day better. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kerstin, and we'll continue to stay in touch. You're welcome to come back anytime.
Great, I appreciate it.
Learning. And as always, Woburn, all of the folks who joined me today are providing a service to us as a city, and I'm just always inspired and excited to see all the important work that's happening and the progress that we're making. And please continue to take good care of each other.
You as well.